It's preparing to live stream.
Okay.
One moment, please. Okay, we are in live stream and recording and people are entering in, so you are a go when you're ready.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Chair Brown is having some audio issues with his computer that he's working on troubleshooting, so we're going to go and get started while he solves that. First things first, Rebecca, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rebecca. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Vince.
Brian, point of order, could Dr. Morlock speak about the translation?
Oh, absolutely. Dr. Morlock, would you do that?
Sure. Buenas noches. Hoy, como siempre, tenemos interpretación para ustedes que hablan español, así que, por favor, si escoge el lenguaje, ahí tenemos español para todos ustedes. Gracias por haber venido.
Thank you, Dr. Morlock. And Vince, you're on.
All right. Chair Brown, Newberg Board, and Dr. Morlock, thank you for having me here this evening. The purpose of this meeting tonight is to go ahead and have a hearing on a variety of issues, but the board is setting aside time to hear from the public. My name is Vince Adams. I am a board development specialist with the Oregon School Boards Association, and I'm here just to support the district in facilitating this meeting and really to allow the board to sit back and hear the public during this time. So for tonight's meeting, the chair has selected 50 individuals and the order in which I'll be bringing them up. Each commenter will be given 2 minutes to speak. Time limits will be strictly enforced to ensure as many individuals as possible will have an opportunity to provide comment. I'll share my screen and with a 2-minute timer to help us stay on track. In the interest of time, I will ask the board members, please refrain from responding in the meeting to comments made. Commenters should direct their remarks to the whole board. If you ask a question, the board or staff will not be able to respond during the meeting. This is an effort to maximize the number of people who will be able to provide comment tonight. I will call on each commenter in turn and the person that follows them. For example, our first commenter tonight will be Sarah Kimsey Sorrow, and John Paul Reed is on deck, and we'll proceed that way. When your name is called, please turn on your video and unmute, state your name and your community of residence for the record, and begin your comments. Speakers may offer objective criticism of the district operations and programs, but the board will not hear complaints concerning individual district personnel. Undue interruption or other interference with the orderly conduct of these proceedings will not be allowed. Obscenities, profanity, threats of violence, defamatory or abusive remarks are always out of order. I will terminate a commenter's privilege of address if, after being called to order, the commenter persists in improper conduct or remarks. All right, with that set aside, we can go ahead and call our first person. And like I said previously, the first person on the list is Sarah Kimsey Sorrow.
I have a first name of Sarah that I am promoting. I'm not sure if it is the correct one or not.
And I need to share my screen here.
Sarah, I have a Sarah up. I'm not sure if you're the correct person. It just has a first name of Sarah. I don't have a last name. Are you the one who wanted to speak tonight?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes, I am Sarah Kimsey Sorrow.
Perfect.
Wonderful. So go ahead and state your name and residence, our community of residents for the record, and begin your comments.
All right, my name is Sarah Kinsey Sorrow. I live in Newberg and I'm a parent of children in the Newberg School District. I want to address the ban on Black Lives Matter and pride flags in our schools. I am dismayed by how little some members of our community seem to value empathy. I'm a straight white woman. I have never had to worry I was being looked at or treated differently because of the color of my skin or who I love. That doesn't mean I can't empathize with people in Newberg experiencing racism and bigotry. Have we forgotten that just because we personally haven't experienced something or witnessed specific behavior that it doesn't mean it isn't true? In order to be responsible, caring, and contributing members of a community, we need to listen to our least represented citizens. For every one Black student in Newberg, there are 70 white students in our schools. We need to listen to them. I am asking for you to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Your child comes home, tears streaming down their face because they were being sold online. You get an email that a teacher's aide at your children's school wore blackface to school. Can you imagine having to return to that school and not knowing who to trust? You're asking to rescind the Every Student Belongs policy, which bans the display of the Confederate flag, nooses, and swastikas, all three of which have been labeled statewide as symbols of hate. A pride flag and Black Lives Matter flag bother you so much, but you are fine with the symbol of genocide for 6 million Jewish people being displayed in our schools. Think about that. It feels disingenuous to me for you to claim we have heard a lot from the community that does support the ban, but you have yet to show evidence of that. Last week, you said you were trying to choose new community members to speak, yet the 3 people who spoke in favor of the ban have spoken at least 2, if not 3 other times. Do you know what that says? That you really don't have the support you're claiming to have. Only around 25% of eligible voters cast ballots in the May election. While the onus is on the community to participate in elections, that hardly represents our entire community and how they feel you should be representing them. Fiscally, this is irresponsible. Most of you don't have children in our district or children under 18. If our district keeps losing money from donors or a superintendent who has made incredible progress with our schools, you won't see the follow-up from that. You can move on because ultimately it won't change your lives, but my kids, their friends, and classmates will suffer. We need leaders who will support bringing us together as a community, not those who are tearing us apart. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, our next commenter is John Paul Reed. Marta Wright, you're on deck. All right, do we have John Paul Reed?
Sorry, I was on mute. I promoted John to the screen, but I don't have a last name, so I'm unsure if it is the correct John. I will attempt again. Hello, John? No.
Okay. No, John?
Not showing up on the panel.
Kevin, can we get Marta Wright?
One moment, please. I will try.
And after Marta Wright, I have Elaine Koskela. I'm sorry if I mispronounce anybody's names during this meeting.
I'm having a hard time finding the name Marta. One moment, please.
Mhm.
Oh, I've got her. One moment. Oh. Marta? I see that she.
All right, can you hear me now?
Here we
We
go.
can hear you just fine.
All right. Hi, I'm Marta, a resident of Newberg, a former student and a mother of 2 adult former students in this district. This introduction is my identification, leading me directly to my first point. Adults who expose their sexual identification to a child is abuse by any definition. We all know what the letters LGBTQ stand for. These are very personal, sexual, and private choices that people are free to choose, but should not be an agenda in the classroom, and at young ages is confusing and none of the school's business. Second, we, the people, voted this school board in, and decision to remove all flags except the state and American flag should stand. The American flag does belong in every classroom because it represents freedom, liberty, and unity. It's also a reminder of those who sacrificed for the freedoms we all value and inclusively are fighting for. Third, after researching BLM, I've made to believe that their plea is to secure the right to life, liberty, and the happiness of all Americans. Oddly enough, that is exactly what the American flag also represents. Deeper research led me to believe, or to find, BLM is admittedly known as a socialist philosophy, political program, and wants to disrupt the nuclear family structure, defund police, and on and on. BLM has a political agenda that has no place in the classroom. Supporting BLM sends a clear message to police families and their kids they are not safe. As for the actions of Gail Groby after removing the American flag and saying, I've been in the industry or district for 23 years, you can't tell me what to do. I feel that there is critical race theory teachings that are turning our students into radical activists. We do not accept these teachings, and I feel strongly Gail Groby and anybody else who supports this type of teaching be resigned and asked to resign. Lastly, just say no to mask and vax mandates. Every person has the right to their opinions and beliefs, but there is a place and time to vote those, and it's not in the classroom of our highly impressionable students. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. All right, next up is Elaine Cascella. On deck is Nicole Llewellyn.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Go ahead and state your name and community of residence.
Good evening, I'm Elaine Cascella. I am the parent of 3 Newberg High graduates and the success coach at Catalyst High School. I've lived in Newberg a long time. Tonight, I am speaking with a great deal of sadness and a great deal of anger. Sadness at the state of our district, with racism and bullying running rampant. Sadness that racist folks are emboldened by this board. Anger at a board that is participating in illegal behavior, breaking public meeting laws, costing our district an incredible amount of taxpayer money. That's my money. Anger at a board that is purposely silencing and not listening to so many voices. And I have so many examples of this, but I don't have time to say them. But one way is literally illegally changing the rules, guiding public speaking at meetings to stack the deck, to make it look different than it actually is. So to those of you listening tonight, I want to tell you some stories. I've worked in Newberg schools for 14 years. I've learned that students need to be seen and heard for who they are. It doesn't matter if I agree or disagree with an aspect of who they are or what they believe. What matters is that I and other staff see them and express value to them. A board telling me what I can and cannot put on my walls is limiting the ways I connect with students and tell them what, and telling them that I see them. Worse than this, however, is the stories I'm hearing about students, 3 Black students who sobbed at nightly, because they feel so dehumanized by this board. I know a whole host of queer students who want to know why they are so hated. I know 2 high school students who transferred to Mac High because of the ban this board put in place. I have coworkers, good teachers, too many of them, who will leave the district if this board continues to implement harmful, heavy-handed policies without input from everyone. My ask is that you back up and get input from the community and get us talking to each other. And I hope everyone asks that.
Thank you, Elaine. Our next commenter is Nicole Llewellyn, and Mariah Reed is on deck.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Nicole. I am from Newberg and I have 3 boys, one of which attends Chehalem Valley Middle School. Thinking of what I was going to say tonight, I was completely torn. I am against having BLM and pride items in our schools. But the question I keep asking myself is, when does this issue come to an end? When does it get resolved? Clearly, both sides are never going to concede and both sides are going to continue to fight. When will it be enough? Is it when we've torn our kids apart? When we have torn our neighbors apart or ruined businesses? Newberg has been my home for many years. I grew up here. I am proud to say that I am from Newberg. I am proud that I get to raise my boys in this community. I'm not proud of people's recent behaviors. However, I know those select few do not make up the entire town of Newberg. Don't let the actions of a few destroy our town and make it something that it is not. This town is filled with amazing people, people who love one another, people who treat each other with respect and would do anything for one another. So I ask, how do we come to a resolution that everyone can be happy with? We need to come together for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Our next speaker is Mariah Reed. John Kitchen is on deck.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead
Hi.
and state your
My
name
name is,
and
yes.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. My name is Mariah Reed, and I am a resident of Newberg. I'm a recent graduate of Newberg High School. I was valedictorian for the class of 2019 and am a member of student government. I care about education. I care about making sure that our classrooms and district buildings are safe and are not distracting to the educational process. I cared enough to have been heavily involved at Newberg High School, and I care enough to come back now and share my outrage. This is embarrassing. In student government, I heard and witnessed the suffering of a lot of students, the mental anguish, the suicides. Never once did a student come with concern for their free speech. Never once did a student come with concern that a BLM or pride flag was a distraction to their learning. BLM and pride flags are symbols of support and safety. They are not distracting or indoctrinating in classrooms. Nooses, Confederate flags, and other symbols representing the murder of Black people, symbols that represent a violent and unsuccessful anti-American rebellion, are threatening and distracting in schools and in the classroom. The fact that those truths are not understood by all members of this board is incredibly embarrassing. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people, among my peers. LGBTQIA+ youth and Black youth have higher rates of suicide compared to their cis, heterosexual, white counterparts. These resolutions do nothing to address the real mental health crisis among students and actively work against the few actions we know are helpful to students. Data shows that when students feel supported, their rate of suicide and mental illness goes down. This culture war threatens the lives of students. There are consequences to your actions. Your job description is to support, protect, and advocate for students, yet you knowingly put students' lives at risk, making yourselves enemies of those you swore to protect. The passing of these resolutions are not wins for you. They threaten the safety and livelihood of thousands of children under your care. The consequences of your actions will be on your hands. The blood of my peers will be on your hands.
Thank you, Mariah. All right, next up we have John Kitchen. And on deck is Alexandra Brookfield, and it looks like we may have multiple students in that group.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, John, we can hear you just fine.
Perfect. Good evening. My name is John Kitchen. I'm a Newberg resident, a graduate of Newberg High School, class of 02, and have 2 sons that attend Newberg School District. I'd like to start by stating that I was raised to treat people how I want to be treated, to treat people with respect. I teach my sons the same. The BLM and pride flags really have no place in schools. I truly believe they are political symbols, and those flags, if anything, cause division more than anything. Proof of that is what's going on right now as we have this meeting. Students and staff need to be respectful of others' decisions and rights to live their life the way they want to. School is a place for learning. It is not a place to push what you believe onto young minds. Flying BLM, Pride, Confederate, Nazi, Communist fists, or even the blue line flags is really nothing more than pushing one's personal beliefs onto young minds. There's truly one flag that flies that is already all-inclusive. It's already a shining light around the world for equality. No matter the color of your skin, sexual orientation, gender, or gender identity, that flag is the American flag. If the board and our teachers feel they need to fly another flag to use as symbols to show support, then really we need new teachers and new board members. There is no other symbol or flag needed in our schools or to be flown by our teachers other than the American flag. Members of this board have stated in previous meetings how unfair it is to have a majority vote decide this policy. Honestly, maybe those members should take a class on the democratic process. Locally, the majority votes is what that process is all about. We as a community have voted these board members in, and we as a community have voted the Newberg School Board members in. We voted to overturn a majority liberal board and replace it with a majority conservative board. That's how this is supposed to work. I'd like to end my time by saying thank you to the board members that truly have our students in mind when putting this policy into place. You truly have the support of the majority of Newberg. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, next up is Alexandra Brookfield. And anyone else in that group? I'm not sure. I have notes here that there may be multiple students.
Yeah, maybe.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Can you see us?
I see Tammy Brookfield.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, board members. My friends and I are here tonight to express our concerns over the board's recent activities. It is extremely insensitive and disrespectful to take down flags that represent a minority group of people. It shows a lot of ignorance to think that banning those flags is going to make the problem disappear. Those who have been murdered by the police deserve recognition and not to be ignored. That may not affect you personally, but it affects me a lot. Those people were killed because of their skin color, something you can't change. There is science behind being LGBTQ+. You don't choose how you identify. Don't tear down communities that you can't relate to or understand.
The school board was elected to serve the students and to do what's best for us, including listening to our wants and needs. BLM and pride flags create a safe environment for students and make them feel like valued members of our community. The Pledge of Allegiance ends with liberty and justice for all. By taking down these flags, you're saying that minority students are not welcomed. That is disregarding our nation's pledge. Growing up in Newberg has taught me to value diversity and celebrate our differences. Please don't change this message.
We're all living through a pandemic, but for those BIPOC and LGBTQ+ members of our community, this adds more struggle onto an already devastating year. Your job is to protect students, to do what's best for us. As a student at Mountain View Middle School myself, I can say this is not what is best for us. You claim that Pride and Black Lives Matter flags are a distraction, but taking them down is more of one. Teachers tiptoe around the conversation spread by your action, because to tell us that what you are doing is right, it would be to tell us that minority students do not deserve to be loved and that they do not belong, because that is what taking away the symbols of their acceptance means to these students in our community.
Okay. Seeing people we relate to being hurt and discriminated against is scary. It makes us feel like there is danger lurking around every corner, which is why a BLM sign or a pride flag can be so powerful. It makes us feel like this is a safe space, somewhere where we can be ourselves and know that we are respected regardless of our ethnicity, sexuality, or gender.
Please consider being more responsible with me and my friends' parents' tax dollars. Instead of spending money on lawyers for cases you've gotten yourself into, spend money on improving curriculum, hiring more educators, buying better masks for students, improving extracurricular activities, improving counseling, etc.
Many times in these meetings, I've heard people argue that racism isn't a problem in Newberg. But look at what happened on Snapchat and at Maybelt Rush. That is here and that is now. Taking down these signs makes it seem like it is okay to treat BIPOC students as if they are less. Is that the message you wish to convey? Whew. Thank you for your time. Please consider what we have said and end this petty argument so that we can tackle other important issues rather than tearing down positive representation for those who are often underrepresented in our society.
Thank you. Woo.
Thank you. All right, and I'm assuming that Abram Dunlop was in there as well. I don't know the children of Newberg, so. So next up, I believe we have Peggy Kilberg. And then on deck, we have John Peterson.
Peggy is on the panel.
Okay. Peggy?
Sorry, I didn't unmute the right spot. I'm here, sorry.
All right, we can hear you just fine. Go ahead and state your name and
Yeah, I'm
residence.
Peggy Kilbert, live in Newberg, and I have some comments about the ban. I've watched school board meetings for the past several months, and frankly, I'm just fed up with people calling up, down, and down, up. Calling the ban on signs that promote political organizations and agendas political is a patently false and irrational statement. The school board should be apolitical, one parent recently scolded, alleging that its opposition to LGBTQ pride and BLM signs and flags in the schools is motivated by politics. I would assert that exactly the opposite is true. Supporting these signs in the schools is actually what's political. Go to these websites and see for yourself. Let's imagine for a moment something quite different than BLM and or LGBTQ media being disputed. What if teachers and staff had posted such signs as abortion stops a beating heart, which at 5 weeks gestation is true, by the way, or Blue Lives Matter, or proud supporter of the NRA? My guess is that all of the school board members, as well as many of you on Zoom who vehemently oppose the current ban, would not only agree to, but demand a ban on these signs. And my point is that all of these signs, including BLM and LGBTQ, should be considered political. Just go to their websites. So let's stop pretending that the school board members who support the ban are being political when they have, in fact, voted to make our schools politically neutral. I also want to say that I'm really tired of hearing 4 of our school board members disparaged as racist, homophobic, hateful, uncaring. I have simply had it. I would remind you that they were elected by people in this community who agree with their views. And I'll conclude by saying again that this ban is simply about ensuring a neutral learning environment. So
Thank you,
please
Peggy.
stop this politically loaded nonsense
Peggy,
and
I'm
shift
sorry,
the
your
focus to
time has
being more
expired.
effective educators.
Thank you, Peggy. Okay. John Peterson is up next. And David Klaus is on deck.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, John.
Hi.
Go ahead and start.
All right, my name is John Peterson, owner of Pollinate Flowers in Newberg. In 2019, our business began a visibility campaign in Yamhill County after hearing countless stories of local youth who felt too afraid to be themselves in this community. Some of these youth chose to end their lives. Our business began distributing free pride flags to organizations who were interested in showing support to the local LGBTQ+ community. It is important because there is a tremendous lack of effective leadership on LGBTQ issues in Newberg and Yamhill County. Effective leadership begins with listening before making decisions. The past month highlights elected officials on this school board who are unable to lead effectively because they are unable to listen to human stories that differ from their own experiences. Indeed, 4 members of this school board already made decisions about minority students without listening to student voices. It's tragic that in 2021, with decades of research and documented negative effects of discrimination on people and communities, the leaders in Newberg continue to talk and discriminate before they listen. 4 members of this board continue to claim that existing as BIPOC or LGBTQ+ human is inherently political, and that children of law enforcement are intimidated and threatened by symbols of Black and queer liberation. These are white nationalist dog whistles. This board claims to desire to get back to education while simultaneously demonstrating how incredibly uneducated the board is on racial, sexual, and gender identities and experiences in the United States. Effective school board members educate themselves on all student experiences, not just the students with the most privilege like those of law enforcement. Effective law enforcement leaders would be quick to squash the narrative that BIPOC and LGBTQ+ children are a threat to officers' children. Effective law enforcement leaders understand the importance of officer accountability in the communities they serve, and they understand how the history of their profession continues to impact their jobs today. Effective law enforcement officers teach their children about human diversity. Dave, Brian, Renee, Trevor, you all need to do better. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, David Klaus is up, and Marie Selke, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, is on deck.
David is on the panel, if you could unmute.
All right, can you hear me now?
I hear you just fine, David. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. My name is David Klaus, and I am a 23-year resident of Newberg. And I would like to go on record as being strongly in favor of the board's decision to ban political and ideological symbols from the classroom. Schools should be places of learning, not ideological petri dishes for indoctrination. How appropriate would it be for a teacher to just say a blue line, a Proud Boy, or a Trump flag in class? So, in the spirit of equity, if you allow one, you must allow all. I also believe that a clear majority of Newberg residents would agree with the board's decision. It's time to once again focus on teaching students how to think as opposed to what to think. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Or I'm sorry, that was David. So thank you, David. Marie Selke. And Maddie Kozlov is on deck.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine, Marie.
Hi, my name is Marie Selke. I'm a parent of 2 current and 1 former Newberg students. And so I often walk and jog around Newberg, and I see a number of signs that say hate has no home here, which often makes me reflect on our community. Wouldn't that be great if it were true? I saw a sign online that sums up what really needs to be said. It says, love your neighbor, who doesn't? Look like you, think like you, love like you, speak like you, pray like you, vote like you, love your neighbor, no exception. Seems like our community would be more cohesive if we all followed this. Instead, we are in tribes here in Newberg, and I would argue nationwide. As adults and parents, I say we set a better example for our children. We as a school do not tolerate bullying of any kind. I got the recent email. There are consequences to bullying behavior, and I cheer that. I say that we as a community do the same. If there is a board member or community member, a staff member that does not agree with you, think like you, look like you, pray like you, or vote like you, or even make different health decisions than you, let's not call them names. Let's not dox them or threaten them. Let's not go after them and get them fired from their jobs, affect their livelihood. All these classify bullying behaviors to me. Let's not tolerate bullying. Let's be an anti-bullying community and set a good example for our students and children. We expect our children to talk out their differences, to see the other side, and to treat each other with respect. Let's be adult and model this respect as teachers, as administrators, as parents, as school board and community members. No matter how justified you feel your opinion is, let's work out our differences, work together, and maybe we can make the news in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. All right, next up is Maddie Kozlov, and Joseph Brucken is on deck. Ooh, I think I hear a voice, but it's not very loud. Can you hear me? Just barely. I'm sorry, Maddie. I can't tell what you're saying.
Is that better?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. I've got multiple mics. So,
Go ahead.
all right. My name is Maddie Kozloff, and I am a school counselor at Chehalem Valley Middle School. During the September 14th meeting, there was a motion put forward to spend time specifically hearing from those who would be most affected by banning Pride or BLM paraphernalia: students, staff, and parents. The majority of the board has chosen to ignore that request, a decision to continue to silence us. On August 3rd, over 20 professionals hired and employed by this district to specifically support the emotional, social, and academic needs of students wrote and submitted a letter arguing against this policy. We presented professional research about historic inequities and voiced concerns seeing those being echoed in our district. The response we received was dismissive at best. A 4-sentence email with community feedback is very important to our decision-making process. When the avenue for providing feedback comes after a decision that's been made, you make it clear that it's not a factor in your process. Our silence is more valuable than our feedback. Since the school year has started, I have witnessed increased comments of bigotry, a direct response to people feeling emboldened by the recent board policy to voice hateful and hurtful opinions and reflect poor behavior modeled by some members of this board. Luckily, many staff have rallied to support their students, seeking to provide reassurances that everyone is welcome in our schools and communities. Conversely, dozens of students have commented on my Pride or Black Lives Matter shirts, pins, and buttons, each excited to see themselves and in turn be seen. BIPOC and LGBTQ+ students cannot and should not have to hide who they are, and without these symbols, I would be an unknown to some of my most vulnerable students. The disconnect between what you are saying and what you are doing has turned a corner from confusing to hurtful. The reality is that you cannot silence us into disappearance. We exist as your staff, your students, and in your community. But this district doesn't belong to just you. It belongs to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. All right, next up is Joseph Brucken, and Sarah Morgan is on deck. Okay, can
you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine, Joseph.
Thank you, sir. Joseph Brucken, father of 4, longtime Newberg resident. We the people, the American flag represents more ethnicities, religions, backgrounds, and opinion than in any other nation. The Republic, a state where sovereign power is invested in representatives elected by people to govern. The government is the people. Somehow we've forgotten that. It's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people. We are drifting away from what our forefathers intended in the Constitution. Unfortunately, elections don't always go the way we want. We still must obey the law and follow the rules. Ginning up discourse will not work. Anyone who can afford private education is leaving the public schools. Waivers need to be considered so that the money follows the students, and soon the failed public schools will implode, forcing the rebuilding according to the people, not the indoctrinated minority. I'm terrified of nothing. What makes me a bit nervous is when a Marxist organization works its way into the public schools. I've seen this group involved in more domestic terrorism than in any other group of my life. As a third-generation veteran, I will continue to defend the flag against enemies, both foreign and domestic. Critical race theory is toxic for our society. As a father of mixed race children, it makes no sense to think because I have white skin, I'm the oppressor, and my wife is oppressed because her skin is brown. Truth must be considered in this situation. Cultural Marxism, the supremacy of the state, overthrowing family, exploiting the relationships within the family, indoctrinating our children with your politics, defunding police. Sound familiar? Be very careful. Marxism is unfolding before our very eyes. Stop boxing out people that don't share your values. Spirit, strength, and God bless America.
Thank you, Joseph. All right, next up is Sarah Morgan. And on deck, hold on, I need to turn my page. On deck is Jerry Lida. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Sarah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sarah Morgan. I'm in the 7th grade dual language program at Mountain View Middle School. School has always been like a community, a safe space to be myself. But what we have is a community divided. With decisions like banning LGBTQ and BLM flags and showing support of that are other acts and will just get worse. You've also told us that the priority goes to the students this meeting, but I've only yet to see 2 groups of students to speak. This is similar to our schools. The BLM and BIPOC community members have been silenced, and people that favor this decision have been able to spoken up. If we're gonna fix this, we need to start soon because it'll just get worse. So help us rebuild this community and piece our community back together. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, next up is Jerry Lida. And on deck is Robert Till.
Hi, Vince. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, Jerry.
Great. Good evening, Chairman Brown, board members, and Superintendent Morlock. Thank you for serving our community and for this opportunity to speak. My name is Jerry Lida, a valedictorian of Newberg High School in 1989. Some public employees, like police officers, are not allowed to share political opinions on the job. I believe it should be the same for school district employees. I have observed many people being viciously attacked because they prefer a politically neutral classroom. People are ruining reputations and causing financial harm. I was born and raised here in Newberg, and people I have known much of my life who are really great people are destroying other people. I'm asking all of us to be civil as we discuss difficult issues. Please show tolerance toward people who have an opinion that you don't like. Let's love all of our neighbors as ourselves. I interviewed 4 teens, 3 boys and 1 girl in Newberg who prefer not to speak tonight for concern of retribution. If you won't hold back from attacking adults with which you disagree, students believe you're likely to attack them as well. So many are being silent. I'll read the questions that I asked and then I'll share their answers. What message do you have for the school board, and do you have any comments about the disputed flags? First person, putting up a symbol that represents a certain political opinion creates more division and people have a harder time being comfortable in class. Second person, hire teachers who will do what's best for us and not polarize us, and who will not be pushing racism, a narrative of racism all the time. I don't know a single racist. The US flag and Oregon flag are the only ones that are all inclusive. All other flags are exclusive and distract from the class. Support an open learning environment without a teacher's divisive beliefs. Adding other flags will pull students' attention from what is being taught.
I'm sorry, Jerry, your time has expired. Thank you. All right. Robert Till is up right next, and I have Zachary Lyda on deck. Robert, go ahead and unmute.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Can you see me and hear me?
I can see and hear you just fine.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Hello, my name is Robert Till and my pronouns are he/him. I am a gay sophomore student at Newberg High. I am embarrassed to live here. The fact that we have made national news for something so shitty twice in 1 week makes me sick. The fact that 4 of you voted to ban a colorful flag that stands for love and equality and a flag that fights against racism is beyond me. There are so many other things you should be worrying about. Last week, several students at Newberg High created and/or joined a slave trade group Snapchat where they literally bought and sold a Black gay student here at NHS. And just last Friday, an elementary school teacher, showed up in blackface to protest vaccine mandates. Okay, it's called science. Words alone can't even describe how disgusted and upset I am. The Trevor Project estimates that at least one LGBTQ plus youth between the ages of 13 and 24 attempts suicide every 45 seconds in the US alone due to not feeling loved or accepted. It's horrendous and unacceptable. A simple pride or BLM flag in a classroom shows the love and acceptance that we need. Pride flags can literally save someone's life, and you're just going to take that away? This is why representation matters. I have lived in Newberg my whole life, and I demand change, and I demand equal rights, and I deserve the opportunity to not be looked down upon or hated for the gender which I love, and deserve the right to not be bullied and called slurs on a daily basis. Do better, Newberg. I am done. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. All right. Zachary Lyda is up next, and then I just have a first name Reed, R-E-I-D. And that person is a student.
Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you just fine, Zachary.
Thank you. My name is Zach Lyda. I am 21 years old, and I've been a resident of Newberg my whole life. Thank you all for giving me a chance to speak tonight. My comments will focus on the banning of political symbols in the classroom. I completed high school through an early college program, taking classes at Portland Community College. There's a very definite political slant at PCC, more present in some classes than others. Certain classes were very apolitical and I learned a lot in them. However, a number of classes were not. This detracted from my learning, often forcing me to focus away from learning and toward political matters. In a modern history class, for example, the professor had a great personal like for a certain president. There were 4 essays due in the class, and the first 2 I expressed my own opinions. I received moderate grades for both those essays. In the last 2 essays, however, I praised that president that the professor liked and received perfect scores on both of them. This shifted my focus away from actually learning history and toward keeping my professor happy, and also made me feel marginalized and showed me that I wasn't safe expressing my own opinions in class. I believe that the personal politics of teachers should have no place in the classroom for this reason. Students are there to learn about their subjects, not their teachers' opinions. Students should feel safe expressing their opinions in class and have no fear of what their teachers may do if they have the wrong opinion. Removing divisive political symbols from the classroom is a step toward this goal. While some students may feel validated by the presence of a political agenda in the classroom, there will always be others who are marginalized by that agenda. We cannot allow our school system to normalize the marginalization of groups of children. All children should feel safe and welcome in the classroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. All right, next we have Reed, it's a student. And then on deck, we have Mark Colby.
Am I audible?
Yes. Hear you pretty good.
All right. Hello, my name is Reed Arnold. I'm a student at Newberg High School. This is my senior year. I would first off like to say the Pride and Black Lives Matter flags are not a want, but a need. So many of my classmates go home that do not support them for who they are, and their safe place is at your schools. Taking those flags away, you are abandoning your students. What flags are shown in the schools should not be decided by the adults who do not walk those halls, feel the gazes of your classmates, and are discriminated against. Right now, Newberg is under the microscope with the slave trade group chat and what happened at Mabel Rush. The only question really is if if your decision will be the third in the row or not. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Reed. All right. Mark Colby is up next. And then we have Midas Jenkins on deck.
Okay.
I can hear you just fine, Mark. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm a longtime resident of Newberg community and a graduate of Newberg High School. My comments are as follows. One is I support the banning of all special flags, banners, signs, pins, etc. in the schools and classrooms other than the American flag and the Oregon flag. Basically, anything to do with special interest and of a political nature needs to not be allowed. Second, anti-racist policy. It is actually racist in itself by mentioning George Floyd and promoting him as being someone better than what he actually was, a convicted felon. This policy insinuates that Newberg is a predominantly racist community, which it is far from it. I think it is also appalling that the radical left are out there trying to personally attack, harm the conservative members of this board. You three minority board members, in fact, all board members, should publicly condemn these actions. And lastly, board meeting preparedness. There's no excuse for any board member to come to a meeting and not be fully informed and up to date on matters before the board. If you cannot, you should resign. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Right. Midas Jenkins is up next. And on deck is Carrie Marshall. Or no, I'm sorry. It's Carrie Martell.
Hi, can you hear me?
Can hear you just fine.
Awesome. Hello, I'm Midas. I'm a senior at Catalyst in Newberg. I've lived here my entire life. Last year, I followed the Newberg School Board with some other students, and I spoke in a board meeting expressing support for the Every Student Belongs policy. And tonight I'm speaking to you about the ban on Black Lives Matter and LGBTQA signs, flags, and symbols. I want you to hear how this ban affects me, a transgender student. I've spent a great deal of my life on high alert, feeling unsafe and afraid of the worst case scenario. Without any outward expressions of support, I'd always default to Murphy's Law. If anything can go wrong, it will. And Catalyst has been a safe place for me, where I can let down my guard. And then when the new school board quickly decided to ban all BLM and LGBTQ symbols, I felt like you were telling me that there's no room for people like me, that my life, because of my identity, is not valued. Exclusionary behaviors like this ban are very literally life-threatening. Trans youth already have a higher than average chance of experiencing depression, homelessness, suicidal thoughts and actions, and other mental health challenges. I have firsthand experience of the difference that diligent expressions of support can make versus the effects of erasure and rejection. This ban is harmful and backwards. Please listen to the students being impacted. I am not political, I am human. Thank you.
Thank you, Midas. All right. Up next is Carrie Martell. Charisse Bach is on deck.
Okay, see me?
See and hear you just fine.
Great. My name is Carrie Martell. My family has lived in the area for about a century. I was born in Newberg and I attended the local school system. I joined the Army when I was 17, and after having lived in several other states, I returned to the area about a year ago. I'm very alarmed at the political activists who have entrenched themselves into this town, which, having been founded by Quakers, has historically been immune to many of the social problems of the surrounding areas. I am alarmed that the city mayor and council has hired a critical race theory consulting firm and whose founders authored an essay that claimed it's not enough for white people to be allies of the ideology. They must also become accomplices willing to sacrifice their jobs, reputations, and everything for an ideological crusade that they as a so-called consultant are financially profiting from. I'm alarmed that the Newberg School District passed a resolution claiming our school system is systemically racist and that they need to racially cleanse the faculty, redefining this cleansing as making it more diverse. I'm alarmed by the fringe movement to hang flags like Black Lives Matter and the gay pride flags in our schools, which are logos for incorporated political nonprofits. These are not symbols that represent all the students. They are exclusionary symbols that only represent people based on their ethnicity or their sexual orientation. Newberg used to be a place that practiced a common humanity approach to diversity, that taught to judge a person by the content of their character, and that sexual orientation, ethnicity, and gender are not the most important factors to judge a person by. Now there is a movement to teach children to define themselves by these things to the degree they must rally under flags and engage in political tribalism along these lines, and that anyone who is on the correct ethnicity or sexual orientation or gender must step aside and become an ally for other people, or face enormous bullying and harassment. Meanwhile, the activists sell merchandise, collect donations, in the case of the consulting firm the city hired, profit from the hysteria they are causing in our town. I say that is enough, and I call on the residents of Newberg to reject all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. All right. Sharice Bach is up next, and Amber Dawson is on deck.
Hello, can you see me and hear me?
I see and hear you just fine.
Okay, my name is Sharice Bach and I live in Newberg. I'm a parent of 2 students in the district and a former student, as is my dad. The last person mentioned Quakers, so I'll share that I'm a recorded Quaker minister. I support the anti-racist policy and every students belong policy and displaying symbols of belonging for traditionally marginalized groups. That's a major part of the Quaker tradition. I'll tell you a brief story that illustrates what's going on in Newberg in relation to racism and discrimination these days. A few weeks ago, I was at a sign waving demonstration downtown. A white man pulled up next to us to stop at a red light and asked us from the car, "Do you really think there's white supremacy in Newberg?" We said yes, and we're conversing with him about it. At that moment, a truck drove by and a person yelled, "White power," and called us the N-word. We said, they just yelled that at us, so that's an example right in front of you that racism is happening in Newberg. The light turned green, and as the man in the car drove off, he said, "I choose to believe it doesn't exist." I choose to believe racism and discrimination doesn't exist. This is what 4 members of the school board are saying to all the students of color and queer students, parents, and community members who have shared their stories, and even though aggregated statistics show you that it does. Students speak up over and over again and say that it helps them feel supported to see a Black Lives Matter sign or a pride flag so they feel safe so that they can learn. These symbols are the very least we can do. For those of us who are white and straight, it may feel like all of a sudden all these discriminatory incidents are occurring and we might think, see how divisive this is? But I challenge all of us who are white or straight to consider that these types of incidents are visible right now because we're paying attention, but they are happening regularly whether we notice them or not. Since Newberg is opening up this conversation, we're able to be in dialogue together as a community about what's occurring so that people don't have to suffer alone, and so we can do something about it. This isn't a both sides issue. This isn't a partisan issue. This is people's lives. This is our children's lives. Listen to our students.
Thank you, Charisse. All right, Amber Dawson is up next. And
Just to interrupt, I have an Amber Davis, and that is the only Amber I have. I don't have an Amber Dawson, so I'm going to promote and see if that is the correct person.
okay. And then on decks, we have, it's JBT Emmons.
Amber? Can you unmute and let us know if you're in fact the person who signed up under Amber Dawson?
Turn on your video and wave that you're there.
Okay.
The next one then is JBT Emmons. Anybody with Emmons for a last name?
One moment. Let me look under a phone number really quickly and see if it's under a phone number.
Okay.
No, I do not see JBTMS.
Okay, then the next name I have is Robin Wheatley. Robin with a Y.
We'll go ahead and continue to look for those other names, see if I can find something like it while we're listening to Robin. One moment.
Yeah, happy to come back and pick someone up if we can. You bet.
I have a Robin, no last name. I'm going to promote and see if that's her. Try one more time. Okay, I don't know. They're accepting, so.
Okay, so then let's go to Catherine McNeil. That's Catherine with a Y.
I found Catherine. Oh. Hold on, I took for a minute. Did she show up on the panel? Because
I'm not seeing.
oh, I have Robin on the panel. Robin, are you Robin Wheatley?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Robin, we
Oh
can
my
hear you
gosh,
just
I don't
fine.
know what happened. Anyway, I'm here.
Technology, it happens. It's okay.
Yes.
You're good to go ahead and begin.
Okay. Hi, my name is Robin Wheatley. I'm a lifelong Newberg resident with 2 kids in the schools, and I have 2 kids graduated. I'm in support of the political sign ban by the school board. I believe schools should be a neutral learning environment that supports all students. I have always been happy and felt my kids were supported at Newberg High School up until this year. The learning environment is no longer neutral, but hyper politicized. A teacher at one of the schools has gone as far as to say that BIPOC and LGBTQ students are more important. What? I support LGBTQ and BIPOC people, but I do not support these flags as they are not inclusive to everyone. What about kids who are struggling with family issues, poverty, learning disabilities, and mental illness, to say a few of these are the issues that are plaguing kids these days? The signs are causing a lot of division and strife in our community needlessly. All students matter, don't they? We need to figure out a way to show support for all students. The American flag and the flag of the state of Oregon represents everyone. We need to come together. We can't do that until the schools return to neutral ground, keeping politics out. All students matter, but it certainly doesn't feel like that this year. Please vote to ban political signs so that everyone feels welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Vince, I found Jim Emmons. I believe that is our GBT Emmons. I'm going to promote him.
Great, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
I started anytime?
Yes, please.
Okay. First, thanks for this chance to speak. My name is Dr. Jim Emmons, and I live in the Oaks. I'm here as a concerned and embarrassed parent, citizen, and educator. Our city has become infamous in recent weeks for racist incidents, and worse, incidents within our schools. It's difficult not to see a correlation between the board's decision to ban symbols for civil rights, which, by the way, is an ongoing process and not a historical event, and these disgusting episodes. At the least, that decision helps make it appear safe to commit such acts. Both the slave auction, so-called, at Newberg High and the bizarre protest in blackface at Maple Rush, the two schools my children attend, are horrors one should only encounter within a history book. If historical precedent is any guide, what follows is worse. What's next? Church bombing? Lynching? This is something that needs to stop. Racism, while a part of our history, is definitively un-American. The ahistorical and unscientific falsehoods behind racial prejudice run counter to our values. We cannot claim to promote liberty or individual rights if we deny it to some of our own people. The board, given the notoriety it's achieved since its politically motivated decision, and it is a politically motivated decision, has an opportunity here to show their true colors and their true values. I want to know what those will be. Will it be tacit approval, or will they look after our children, which is of course their mandate? If the board believes no one needs masks, then perhaps we can once again meet in person to discuss these issues without digital ways to hide, hush, or hinder constituents by reducing their time to a 2-minute soundbite. I urge the board not to fail in its mandate to serve this community, to look after the best interests of our children, all of them, not just the white or straight or male ones. I urge you, especially those of you elected on the so-called Save Our Schools ticket, to examine your consciences. If you truly embrace the values that made our nation great, then you will protect those who are sometimes victimized. This is a double sin not to do this. We do not lead children astray. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. All right.
I found Catherine McNeil. I'm going to promote now.
Thank you. And then on deck, we have Jennifer Rossetti.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine McNeil, and I am a resident of Newberg. And I am here today to express my opposition not only to the ban, but also to the proposals made to revoke or amend the district's anti-racism resolution and to revoke the Every Students Belong policy, which is a policy that is required by the state for us to receive our division funding. And so I just firmly believe that these actions are taking our district in the opposite direction that we need to go. The recent events in our community make clear that racism is a problem in our community, and it's a problem that requires solutions. These proposals by the board do nothing to address the problem. The pleas that we're hearing from our students of color, from their family members, from our LGBTQ students to solve the bullying and the harassment that's happening in our schools. And we need leadership right now that can propose solutions to these problems. Racism is not a problem that you get to stand by and say, well, it's not affecting me, so I'm going to do nothing about it. As a leader, we need to step up, all of us in the community, and address the issue of racism. If you're not going to be part of the solution, then you're part of the problem, okay? So that includes board members, the majority of the board that are voting on these resolutions. I ask you to please step up and find solutions to these problems or step down.
Thank you, Catherine. All right. Next up, we have Jennifer Rossetti, and then on deck, Ava Bartley.
I'm attempting to promote a J. Rossetti.
Great.
They're on the panel now.
Okay, great. Jennifer, if you can unmute.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
Jennifer Rossetti. I'm a parent in Newberg. Black Lives Matter is political. BLM donations and merchandise purchases are processed by ActBlue, which is a payment processing company only for Democratic candidates, organizations, and charities. This connection makes BLM political and connected to the Democratic Party. This information is available on the BLM and ActBlue websites. BLM is connected to the riots in Portland and across the U.S. Pride flags are not inclusive. These flags are exclusively for the LGBTQ community and their social political movement. The flags are displays to the religious and scientific communities that their views and beliefs are not tolerated. If political BLM and pride flags are allowed, then the thin blue, red, yellow, green flags should have equal representation in the classroom. Many of our students have family members or friends that are police, fire, emergency, and military. Where is their flag of support? Oregon state law states a U.S. flag is to be displayed in each classroom. Mrs. Groby is in violation of this law by removing the flag from the classroom she uses for teaching. The color of your skin and gender does not make you a racist or anti-LGBTQ. In our home, we don't judge someone based on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character. MLK shared that philosophy with the nation. We are all equal. Teachers or any other school staff should not in any way be forced to take a vaccine against their will, religion, or simple choice. The school board is to be the voice of those who elected you. There is no other choice and no better time for you to stand up for liberty and the safety of our children regarding these matters. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. And I'll remind commenters that we cannot mention the names of staff. We cannot comment on individual staff members. All right, next up is Ava Bartley. And there's Ava. Hi.
Hi, thank you.
Let me reset my time.
Oh, Chair Brown.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Vince. Chair Brown and directors of the Newberg School Board, my name is Ava Bartley. I live in Dundee, Oregon. I am the parent of 2 recent Newberg High School graduates. I wanted to highlight 5 items from my written testimony with you tonight, and these comments are generally directed at the 4 in the majority. First, regarding your proposed ban on political or controversial displays. Sadly, we have seen that your pursuit of this ban has emboldened further hateful and racist actions that have attracted national attention, bringing shame and embarrassment to our community. You have been admonished to change course by the State Board of Education, leaders in the executive and legislative branches of Oregon government, your own association, and many, many others. You are risking the funding and stability of our school district. Please listen and stop this misguided effort. Second, regarding your proposal to rescind the Every Student Belongs policy, Oregon statutes and administrative rules require that you have this policy. thumbing your nose at the law, or in the case of the mask mandate, doing a calculus as to whether the district can afford to pay the fines if you willfully violate the applicable law is not a choice that's available to you. See Board Policy BBA. You must follow your own policies and you must follow the law. Third, you are stewards of the school district's limited financial resources. The school district's budget is not your own private piggy bank to use as you wish to further your own political or personal agenda. Fourth, the board policy BHBHA sets the expectation that board members will understand the board's functions, policies, and procedures before taking office. Yet the meetings I've witnessed over the past few months would suggest otherwise. 2 of you are new. Please take advantage of the training offered to you by the Oregon School Boards Association. Educate yourselves about the laws and policies that apply to the work you're doing. Learn parliamentary procedure. Put in the effort to do a better job at the job you were elected to do. Or please step aside and let someone else do it who will. Lastly, be fair and provide equal access to people who want to engage with the board. People providing public testimony used to be taken in the order they signed up. Why does the chair now get to handpick the speakers? This violates the spirit, if not the letter, of board policy BBF regarding fairness. Thank you.
Thank you, Ava. All right. Mike Meinert is next. Meinert is the last name. I'm sorry I didn't let you know that ahead of time.
I only have a first name of Mark, so I'm promoting.
And then I have an Isaiah on deck.
I don't know if this mark is the correct mark. I will try it one more time.
Okay, how about an Isaiah?
Okay.
As a student.
I do not see an Isaiah.
Okay, then I have a person that goes by Dandelion or Dandy Johnstone.
I found Dandy. Promoting now.
All right. After Dandy, we have a Kim Madonna. Madonna. Oh, it's MCDONOUGH.
McDonough.
McDonough, thank you.
Hi there. Is my camera and mic working?
Yeah, works great.
Beautiful. All right. I'd like to introduce myself as Dandy Johnstone. Pronouns are she, they. I'm a junior at the Newberg High School. Thank you guys for hearing my experience as a queer and trans individual. The years that I've experienced living here in Newberg have been about they've been 4 years since I've moved here in 8th grade, and I am now entering into my first semester of junior year. During these years, especially in my high school education, I have been experiencing a lot of fears because of whom I am and the things that I know myself to be true as. Going through a lot of inner debate and looking at the communities and resources available to me, I realized that the school had my back and my support, which enriched my education and allowed me to safely express and be myself. Entering my sophomore year, I was able to take the tools that were available to me and go to the school and say, these are the records and the pronouns and the preferred name that I would like to be represented by. And ever since then, my ability to be feeling safe and supported in my own school has enriched and made my education so much more vibrant. Unfortunately, this year, we're revoking the ability for queer students and Black students to express themselves and connect with people through the symbols of these flags. The Trevor Project 2020 would express that among LGBTQ middle and high school students, 59% felt unsafe at school because of their sexual orientation, and 47 because of their gender, and 42 because of their gender expression. Our previous findings show that LGBTQ youth in affirming schools have nearly 40% lower odds of attempting suicide compared to LGBTQ youth in non-affirming schools. One way schools can support LGBTQ youth is by including positive content about LGBTQ people and issues in classroom curriculums. Representation in school curriculums can affirm LGBTQ youth sexual and gender identities. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. All right. Next up is Kim Madonna, and Isaac Etherington is on deck.
Can you see me and hear me?
Can't see you, but we can hear you. You can go ahead and begin.
Perfect. I'm Kim McDonough, a graduate of Newberg Schools, a parent of 3 current students and a Catalyst graduate, a mom of both Black and white kids, and a teacher here in the district. I've heard members of the board say that the recent removal of BLM and pride symbols from school and the related proposals is simply getting politics out of the classroom. Though it might be just politics to you, I need to tell you it's far more than that to many of our Newberg students. It wasn't just politics when a brown student was repeatedly bullied and called racial slurs by boys in the locker room, or when a Black student was told she was pretty, but in a National Geographic kind of way. When a queer middle school girl was repeatedly bullied and called slurs by students who thought her writing too gay. A brown student told by classmates to get down there where you belong when they threw her supplies on the floor. To Spanish-speaking students told to get out of my country by their white peers. To the boy who was assaulted because he dressed, talked, and walked too gay. To the brown student followed throughout their school hallways by white students wearing white hoodies pulled up like KKK robes, chanting KKK. These are real experiences of students here in Newberg. This goes beyond politics. For these students, school has not always been safe. So a small rainbow, a heart of multiple flesh tones with BLM written on the side, or a flag from their birth country in a classroom is not a small way. It's a big way to make school feel a little bit more safe. They're a symbol that students are not alone, that they have a place, and that they have safe people beside them. Recent board actions have encouraged racist and homophobic behavior. Please right this wrong. Listen to the experiences of LGBTQ students and students of color. Listen to educators and mental health professionals who speak to you. Rescind your vote on BLM and strengthen anti-racism and all students belong. Student safety depends on you.
Thank you, Kim. All right, up next is Isaac Etherington, and then I have Aaron Ochoa on deck.
Isaac is on the panel.
Great. There's Isaac.
Hello, this is Isaac. Do you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Go ahead.
Excellent. My name is Isaac Etherington. I live in McMinnville. I have 2 young school children in McMinnville and Newberg. As an American, as a citizen, as an Oregonian, I believe that all children of all skin color, religious faith, and sexual orientation should feel welcome and respected in their educational environment. By law, the public school system is required to be neutral ground devoid of any radical political activism on the part of the teachers and the staff. The BLM flag does not symbolize freedom. It does not symbolize love, unity, or the fight against racism. The BLM flag symbolizes hate, division, and a movement that seeks to dismantle a socioeconomic system that has raised more people from poverty than any other system in the history of the world. The fact that BLM is a radically destructive movement is easily discoverable through very limited research. They openly declare it themselves. BLM co-founder Patrisse Cullors describes herself as, quote, a trained Marxist that is super versed in Marxist ideology, end quote. Since its inception, every attempt at Marxism around the world has led to genocide, starvation, severe poverty, and the complete subjugation of the people living beneath it. The only people to benefit from Marxism are the oligarchs and dictators that subjugate these populations. Marxism and symbols of Marxism have no place in American public schools. BLM co-founder Yusra Kogali recently wrote openly that, quote, whiteness is not humanness, white skin is subhuman. White people are a genetic defect of blackness. Black people through their dominant genes can literally wipe out the white race if we wanted to, end quote. Parents and members of the board, does this sound like love and acceptance to you? This is vile hate speech at its core. This is a sentiment that we do not want being expressed to our children in school. I'd like to remind the board that Oregon State Code 339.351 through 364 clearly defines the act of bullying and strictly prohibits any bullying in the public school system. What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them? Now. Pigs in a blanket. Fry them like bacon. These are chants that were cried out by BLM protesters throughout the entire year of 2020. Now imagine being the child of a law enforcement family, seeing that flag on the wall of
I'm
your
sorry,
classroom.
your time has expired. Thank you. Okay, up next is Aaron Ochoa. Next and on deck is Veronica Lopez.
I thought I was promoting Aaron, but they disappeared from the screen. So I'm not sure if I had the right person. Let me try this one moment. I have an Aaron Johnson, which I believe is the email associated with this person.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you, Aaron.
Good evening, Newberg School Board members, staff, and support. My name is Aaron Ochoa. I am a Newberg School District parent who has chosen to pull my child from public school until things in our district are worked out, i.e. mask requirements removed, pride flags, BLM, and posters removed as well, and safety and learning become a main focus in our schools again. I am also a Newberg High School graduate. I ask that the board allow all medical and religious exemptions for our teachers and staff, and to keep all staff in their current assigned positions, not for them to be shifted out of classroom assignments and virtual learning based on their vaccine status. I also would like to ask the board to help review exemptions while also keeping the teachers' privacy who are seeking exemptions. I understand there is a great pressure from the governor to get all teachers and staff in the school vaccinated, but our teachers shouldn't have to fear losing their jobs or being shamed by other staff based on their medical or religious beliefs. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. All right. Next, I have Veronica Lopez, and then on deck, I have Georgia Larson. Hi, Veronica.
Hi, can you see me? Or
See and
me?
hear you fine. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. It was very hard for me to prepare and know what to say tonight. I'm at a loss of words with everything going on the past few weeks in our community. Students talking about a slave trade and an employee showing up in blackface. This is disgusting and astonishing, and it shows that there is prevalent racism in Newberg. This should not be happening in our community. I am a child of a Mexican and white parent. My son is also half Black. I always felt less than my white peers and felt that I did not get the same opportunities as my white peers in school. And I don't know if I mentioned, I did grow up in Newberg and I did do all my schooling here and graduated. I'm scared for my son if I keep him in this community because he is Black. Am I going to have to change his hairstyle, the way he chooses to dress, to conform to the racism in this community? I'm concerned, like, what if when he gets older and he starts driving and he gets pulled over, is he going to be judged by his skin color and not by his intelligence and the person he is inside, because he has the biggest heart of anybody that I know? I guess I just don't get how you don't want your minority, BIPOC, or LGBTQ students to feel welcome, all because one white privileged man decided it would be a great idea to remove these from the classroom because they don't affect him personally, or maybe he feels intimidated by them because they could have the better education and be better at the job than him. And he can't accept somebody who is BIPOC or LGBTQ plus to be in his place. How can the board assure me that my son will get the same education and be treated fairly in school and get the same attention as someone who is not a minority or who is privileged? Students cannot learn and be effective if they do not feel safe in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. All right. We have Georgia Larson next, and then Cooper Oaks. Hey, I see Georgia coming on.
Okay.
We can hear you just fine, Georgia. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Georgia Larson. I'm a long-term resident of Newberg, parent of Newberg graduates, and substitute teacher. I applaud Newberg School Board for their decision to keep politics from being front and center in our schools. Highlighting some groups over others is more about political agendas than the good of the students. But students are caught in the middle, for sure. Students that feel marginalized need help, but these flags are not a long-term solution. As we are seeing, they actually tend to divide rather than unify or promote peace. What would be truly healthy for our community is to emphasize the ideals that are already symbolized in our American flag, ideals in which every citizen can take pride: equality of personhood, liberty, justice, integrity, courage, unity and diversity, one nation under God. We have not always lived up to these, but they are standards toward which we strive. If we focus on either celebrating or denigrating certain groups, the pendulum will continue to swing back and forth, pitting people against one another, as we have seen happen with violence across our nation. School should not be the breeding or battleground for controversy. Rather, it should be a safe and welcoming place for all students to be able to focus on academics, becoming the best they can be, and celebrating the things that bring them together. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. All right, next up we have Cooper Oaks, and then on deck is Mary Jane Bachmeyer. Cooper Oaks is in. Cooper, go ahead and unmute there.
Hi there, can you all hear me?
Yeah, hear you just fine.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, I'm Cooper Oaks and I am a sophomore at Newberg High School. And I would also like to state that I've been openly gay since 7th grade and I've never experienced or witnessed any sorts of homophobia or racism back at Mountain View that I can remember. But this ban on Pride and Black Lives Matter flags and clothing is disappointing to see and overall pointless. I know you mentioned that you don't want these in the school because they are political, but you have to realize that allowing the American flag in school is more political than anything. These flags represent the people that are expressing themselves and who they are inside. We as a society need to teach children and even adults that you should love and respect everybody, no matter the color of their skin or their gender identity or their sexuality. Instead, by bringing this ban, it is showing that you have no respect or love for me or my peers. I'm sure you've also heard about the Snapchat group chat and the teacher showing up in blackface. Keep in mind, this was an elementary school. These are children that are 10 and younger and their brains haven't even fully developed yet. I can't imagine how confused and scared they must have been when they saw a teacher, the person that is supposed to be helping them succeed in life, show up in blackface. That is terrible and shows how unsafe and untrustworthy our school district is. And if I'm being completely honest, I do not see any of you trying to help. This is very unfortunate, and it has even got to the point where I've had a conversation with my mom about my future at this high school and frankly, this school district. I am ashamed to attend a school that has people representing it that have no respect for any of their students. When will we be safe? It starts with slurs and insults, but eventually will lead to suicides and even school shootings. I'm scared for my safety and the safety of my friends, and even some of them have spoken before me at the same board meeting. And as far as I see, none of you are doing anything to change this. I would also like to say if you're upset over a flag with some colors and words on it, then I strongly urge you to get a hobby. That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Cooper. All right. Next up is Mary Jane Bachmeyer. And then on deck, I have Terrell or Terrell Palmer. There's Mary Jane. Go ahead and unmute.
Thank you. Sorry.
No problem. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Mary Jane Bachmeyer, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Newberg Education Association Executive Board and our membership. Every student deserves an education at a public school, especially at every Newberg public school, where they can feel safe, welcomed, and validated. Educators deserve to work in a building where their health and safety are respected as well. Individual members of our school board are entrusted with the management of our school district, but they also must do so within the constitutional and contractual rights of its educators. The school board must rescind the policy banning all symbols except the Oregon and American flags. Our educators are invested in equitable and inclusive schools. We strive to create classrooms and curricula that are validating to all our students. Using BIPOC and pride support symbols are part of this environment. Students need to know who their allies are when they feel the need to talk or safe space just to be themselves. The Department of Education and other professional organizations have recognized this time in history as a key educational moment. You've heard from our school counselors and psychologists about the professional organizations that have the research to back the needs of our marginalized students. They've released resources for educators to use mindfully to address the issues of equity and inclusion in our schools. The current board policy, with its overly broad reach, limits the ways in which professional educators and staff can meet the needs of all of our students, and the policy put forward by the board is limiting the educational growth and learning for our students. Classroom teachers interact directly with students and families every day, and we are the individuals best equipped to decide how to make our students feel safe, included, and welcomed in their classrooms. The Newberg Education Association would be delighted to participate in a standing superintendent committee to work on language which would be collaborative, as Director Pyros requested at the September 14th, 2021 Newberg School Board meeting. Collaboration is the foundation of our relationship with the district and therefore with our students and community. Working together, we can build a stronger community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mary Jane. All right, we have Terrell Palmer up next. And then,
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I can't find Terrell.
Okay, Terrell. Oh, then we have Beth Molzahn, Molzahn.
Beth Molzahn, yes, I will see if I can pull her up. I have a Beth without a last name. I will attempt to promote and see if that is who we are looking for.
Okay. Beth. Not moving up for us.
No, I don't think so. Oh, wait, I found her. 1 second. I had the incorrect one. I see Beth Molzahn with her last name.
Okay.
Sorry to the other Beth. Okay, there we go.
Okay, Beth is in. Go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Hear you just fine. Go ahead.
Okay. I am a 35 plus year Newberg resident, and I'm reading a statement from a parent who wishes to remain anonymous due to fear of repercussions for themselves and or their children, which of course is concerning. So here is the statement. I am the parent of a student in the Newberg School District, and as such, I have some serious concerns about the curriculum and the way my child is being indoctrinated to push a narrative I think has no place in school. A teacher's political or social stance has no business being shared with my student and shouldn't impact the lesson being taught. The focus should be on education, pure and simple. Teach my child math, reading, writing, and science, but please do not teach my child about sexuality, religion, or politics. Do not share your beliefs with my child. I am the parent and will choose what I feel is appropriate to be taught when it comes to this. The argument over allowing the BLM or LGBTQ flags in our schools is causing the focus to shift. Teachers and staff are feeling compelled to defend the beliefs they have. While I don't take issue with you believing what you choose, I think the same grace should be given to those who don't. I think the flag issue is a platform used to create issues where it doesn't exist. The kids that need to know they are loved and accepted should be getting the same treatment as they would regardless of the flag flying in your classroom or office. You are choosing to hold one class above another by continuing to argue this point. There are plenty of children in the school district who don't fall under the BIPOC or LGBTQ label who also need your support and to know that they are accepted and loved for exactly who they are. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
I
Right.
found Terry Palmer and I'm promoting now.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, guys. Can
Hi,
you hear me?
Terry. Yeah, we
Sorry
hear you
about that.
good. Go ahead.
My thanks to the board for allowing me to comment on the proposed ban on political and controversial displays. I have been in the community for greater than 10 years. I have 3 children, all of which attended and graduated from Newberg School District. My youngest just graduated this past June, so my wife and I are very familiar with many of the staff, the administration, the daily activities that take place at the school, from conversations with our kids and with the educators. The views I express this evening are solely my own and have no affiliation with any group or organization. I'm speaking tonight in support of the ban, the board's decision to ban political and controversial displays in the classroom and schools. Today, the debate is centered on 2 particular groups, LGBTQ and BLM, who are political groups as evidenced by their actions, statements, and their lobbyist activities. In 2020, LGBTQ spent $7.6 million contributing to political candidates. 98% of the donations went to Democratic candidates, just 2% to Republicans. Data on BLM is not readily available at this time, mainly due to their questionable accounting practices. That aside, the question then becomes one of, if some political groups are allowed in our schools, what additional ones should be supported and promoted, and which ones should not? And then who gets to decide? From my viewpoint, it's a very slippery slope. And regardless of the decision made, some group is going to be offended, and certainly the decision making should not be made up in the court of public opinion. As a tax-paying community member, the sole mission of our school should be the academic education of our students. As a parent, I can tell you that academically, Newberg has a long ways to go to meet the basic needs of this. And this entire debate is wasted time and energy. I know others will argue that these flags are inclusive and accepting, to which I countered that flag flying of a political organization is more about posturing than action. I challenge the board, it's a far better use of time, to concentrate on crafting education and enforcing rules and tangible policies that ensure the rights and every student,
Terry,
background, age, and gay expect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Terry. All right. Jack Kriz, K-R-I-Z, is who I'm seeing next, with Kelly Betcher on deck, B-E-T-C-H-E-R.
Hello?
Hi, Jack.
Hello.
You can go ahead and begin.
All righty, thank you. It has been disgusting to learn of slave trade by students and blackface by staff at Newberg schools. This board and others can be blamed for an atmosphere that condones vulgar language and outright racist acts. It's abhorrent that in 2021, Newberg, Oregon is embroiled in a heated debate about race, one that is laced with death threats. The board has a policy in the works that Black Lives Matter and the flags be banned. Fundamentally, this issue can be distilled to one question. Are these flags political in nature? Of course they are. Millions marched, including in Newberg, to support the Black Lives Do Indeed Matter. Others view the BLM flag as advocating the violent overthrow of our country. Being political and therefore expressing an opinion, your policy would ban it. What about another flag, the US flag? It too is political. The British of 1776 certainly thought so. We see pickups driving around with US flags flying. Is that not political? Porches are adorned with US flags coupled with some of George Carlin's 7 dirty words aimed toward the other side. Aren't these two political uses of our flag? Even Zoom meetings can't escape the political display of Old Glory. It's become it's become crystal clear that the board has stepped into a quicksand of their own making, a morass from which they can't escape with any sense of even-handedness, any sense of fair play, and any sense of consistency in the policies you set. So board members, ban flags, and that means all flags with no exception, if you must. But then refocus on providing a pluralistic, comprehensive education for our students, our community, and our future. Use this fierce debate as a teachable moment with targeted, age-appropriate curricula, fostering skills in, yes, critical thinking, and skills developing independent conclusions and opinions in our future leaders. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Jack. Okay, next I have Kelly Betcher, Chelsea Schatz. And that's Schatz S with 2 T's. Oh, there's Kelly. Unmute.
There we go. All right. I'm going to talk fast since I don't have much time. So my name is Kelly Betcher. I'm a parent of 3 kids that have been involved in the Newberg School District. We specifically bought a house in Newberg because it had a dual language program, and that felt like a safe and diversified environment for our kids to go to, and it was, and I'm super thankful for that. But I've got a kid at Mabel Rush now, and I've got a kid at the middle school, and all of a sudden it doesn't feel like a safe environment to send my kids to. And that's super, super sad. And we are going to say that we're against blackface and we're against the slave trade. But the fact is that the actions of these 4 board members have specifically laid the foundation that this sort of behavior is okay in our school, and it is not okay. It is not okay. And I'd like to remind you, we weren't in the news for being a flag waving town. We weren't in the national news until the 4 of you put a ban on BLM and pride flags. Now we're in Newsweek, Washington Post, New York Times. One of the board members went on the Lars Larson show. For the first time, I felt like I should sell my house and pull my kids, but then I remembered you do not represent the majority of this town. In fact, I don't know who you represent. 70% of voters didn't even turn out for the last school board election. Who do you represent? You don't represent me. You don't represent my kids. You don't represent minority, underserved, underprivileged kids in the Newberg School District. I know who's been very vocal against you, so I'd like to remind you, you don't represent Mayor Rick Rogers, Newberg City Council, Newberg Chamber of Commerce, Yamhill County Commissioner Casey Coolad, the Newberg Education Association, the Oregon Department of Education, the Oregon State Board of Education, Oregon Secretary of State, the Oregon House and Senate Education Chairs, Oregon House Majority Leaders, the long list of representatives from the Democratic Caucus, and even the American Civil Liberties Union have spoken out against you. So where's your long list of supporters? You have created an echo chamber for yourselves. And I'd like to remind you that the color of your skin and your gender identity are not and will never be political. So rescind the ban or resign.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
All right, Chelsea Schatz, and then Christina Lakey is on deck.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Chelsea.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Schatz. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm an EA at Dundee Elementary School. Directors Brown, Shannon, DeHart, and Powell. I hope you have truly listened to our students' voices, and I am so thankful to each and every one of you young people who shared tonight. While the boldness of their hate and ignorance is baffling, the boldness of your empathy and sense of self is awe-inspiring and gives us all hope. They express the importance of the inclusive spaces that staff have created. As a queer person who didn't come out until I was in my mid-20s, I wondered just how differently my life would have been had I known that one of the most innate aspects of my identity wasn't going to be a subject of hate and derision. My identity is not political. When I put signs in my classroom, my only goal is to be there so no other young person has to go through the same self-loathing and confusion that I experienced for a majority of my life. It's become hard to gauge whether you are actively trying to not understand the importance of these symbols or just cannot comprehend what life may be like from another person's perspective. It's a shame and it's an embarrassment. What the four of you have done has fostered an environment for more incidents of trauma for our youth to experience. You have also illegally hired separate and unimproved counsel in your quest for a culture war. The disrespect that this shows to your staff who are already barely making a living wage is appalling. Rather than paying us living wages, you choose to spend roughly what I make in a month per meeting on an illegal counsel. I'm going to say that again. Roughly what I make in a month is being spent in a 4-hour meeting on an illegal counsel for your culture war. My mental health has continuously deteriorated based off of this, and I cannot even begin to fathom the effects that this is having as young children and will continue to have on our Black and queer students. As an adult, I have coping skills, I have support, I have meds. Most of our kids don't have that, okay? Our schools are a safe place. My pride and BLM signs will remain in their place as long as I am a Newberg employee. And finally, to anyone out there who is hurting, I am here for you. I love you and I value you. Be brave and be known.
Thank you, Chelsea. Christina Lakey. And then on deck, we have Sherry Twenge, although we're down to 4 minutes. So these will be our last two.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Okay. Thank you for providing this opportunity to be heard this evening. My name is Christina Lakey. I am the parent of a Newberg High School student. I simply want to add my voice to those who support the ban on political signs and flags in our schools. It seems like those who oppose the ban are making something of it that is not even true. How can having no political signs or flags be political, but insisting on BLM LGBTQ signs and flags be non-political? Regardless of how often or how loudly people who oppose the ban say it's a political decision, that argument makes absolutely no sense. Can you please leave the teaching of beliefs and values to parents and get back to teaching our kids fundamentals so that they can be better educated and better prepared to compete for jobs or go on to further their education? And briefly, I would also like to say that I hope our school district will step up and oppose the vaccine mandate. These jabs are experimental in nature, and just as pro-abortion activists tell us, my body, my choice, even though with abortion, there's another body involved. But when it comes to experimental drugs, the government is telling us that while it is my body, it is not my choice about what to have injected into it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Christina. All right. And Sherry Twenge, Twenge.
I am attempting to promote Sherry Twenge.
Thank you for correcting.
No worries.
I apologize.
There we go.
Hi, Sherry.
Hello.
Hi there. You get the final word. You can go ahead and start when you like.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm reading this for a staff member concerned about retribution against themselves and their children. As an employee of Newberg School District and a parent of 2 NHS students, I am deeply saddened by the issues currently plaguing our students. There are issues that battling factions are having while hiding behind the premise that this turmoil over the BLM and pride flags is in the best interest of students. How can an inanimate object such as a flag talk to our students using words, facial expressions, or nonverbal cues showing feelings? It cannot. It is staff connecting with students through compassionate and caring communication that creates the environment that children thrive in. Our students want attention and understanding from adults, peers, and friends. We have a duty to all students within our beautiful community to maintain the classroom environment as a setting for learning the required academic standards. This leaves no room for educators' personal beliefs, morals, and values to be imparted as wisdom onto our students. This is my job as their parent at home. I want my child to learn in an inclusive environment that was created wholly by the amazing teachers that use the learning standards to create an incredible lesson that inspired my child, giving them the confidence to leave the classroom and go out into the world rather than being subjected to political and social views that have no place in the classroom. This battle over flags that is so important to some administrators and staff, some school board members, as well as some in the community, makes my child feel like no one cares about what is truly important to them, and that would be their academic education. My child wants to learn and be taught, not walk into their classroom and see that the American flag has been taken down and to be bombarded by the latest rants on social media about hate and poor behavior by staff. My child wants to learn how to navigate, communicate, and grow academically instead of feeling like an outcast lost amongst the noisy drama. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Hey, Vince.
Yes, Dave.
I think you only have one left. I mean, we're right there. I know we're at our time, but I have one left on my list.
Okay, so Rob Molzon.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Can hear you just fine. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you. There's been a lot of good statements made tonight on the support of the ban of these political flags. And instead of reading what I was going to read, I'll read a letter that came in from a concerned parent. I'm Rob Molzon. I'm a 35-year resident of Newberg, and I'll be reading a statement of a parent who believes that they could lose their job or would be mistreated if they speak up. As a Dundee resident and a contributing taxpayer to the school system, I expect politics and political signs and flags to be removed from the school grounds. Teachers can have their opinion once they are off the clock. While employed by the city or county government entity, I expect those employees to be apolitical. I do not fund political groups and definitely do not want my taxes to pay for political rhetoric. Please remove the signs and stick to educating our children. I also oppose the vaccine mandate due to the lack of research and unfinished clinical trials. Many of us have been infected by COVID and now have a greater immunity than the COVID shot provides. Once again, let's stop with the political rhetoric in schools and return to educating our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. And that concludes our list that was prepared for tonight. I want to express appreciation for everybody who gave impassioned responses tonight or comment tonight. And I regret that we can't get to everyone that was on this long list that I have before me. I also want to express appreciation for our translators who worked very hard tonight to make this an inclusive meeting. And I want to express appreciation to my partner, Jen, who is pulling up people and bringing them into the meeting. So with that, I yield back the meeting back to the chair.
Vince, Jen, great job. Vince, nice to have you here tonight. You sure helped a ton. Really appreciate that. That's a tough job. That kind of concludes our meeting. We had a few people that didn't get to come tonight, so we'll try to, next meeting or whatever, if we have another session, So again, thank you for everybody for calling in. Thank you everybody for this special listening session to the public. And our next school board meeting will be next Tuesday, the 28th. So Vince, again, thank you very much for spending your time helping us out. And Jen, thanks for a pretty tough night there, you know, juggling all that. Great job. So with that, we'll adjourn the meeting tonight, and we'll see all you board members, and I'm looking at Shiloh there and Dr. Joe. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. So Vince, again, thank you. Thanks.
My pleasure.